The alien cruiser Vyaketh drifted like a black blade above the red gas giant Nur-7. Its hull was ancient, layered with gold-veined armor and living crystal. To the Karth Dominion it was invincible. On the main bridge, High Executor Trelvar clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. "Confirm the target is secured," he said. A lesser officer bowed. "Yes, Exalted One. The human vessel has been seized. No resistance detected. Primitive design. No energy weapons active." The hologram in the center of the bridge showed the captured ship. Small, angular, dull gray. No ornament. No visible shields. It looked more like a cargo coffin than a warship. Trelvar laughed, a dry, buzzing sound. "This is humanity's finest? The species that defied 3 trade sanctions and ignored our summons." Another officer added, "Their files say humans rely on kinetic weapons and chemical propulsion. Crude. They are barely a spacefaring race." The ship was pulled into the Dominion's internal hangar, magnetic clamps locking it in place. Energy dampeners flooded the bay. Automated scanners swept over the human hull. The readings confused the technicians. "No central reactor," one muttered. "No bridge, no life signs. Sir, the interior layout keeps changing." Trelvar waved a claw. "Nervous systems of inferior machines often collapse under scanning. Open it. I want to see the human technology with my own eyes." The hangar doors sealed. Armed Karth soldiers advanced, plasma spears glowing. The human ship did not respond. Then, without warning, its hull lights turned on. "Not bright. Come. White." A soft human voice echoed through the hangar speakers, translated instantly by the Dominion systems. "Capture confirmed." The Karth froze. "Who authorized audio output?" Trelvar snapped. The voice continued. "Threat assessment ongoing. Probability of crew survival, 0.0%. The human ship shuddered. Panels slid open across its surface. Not weapons, machines. Thousands of them. Tiny shapes poured out like liquid metal insects, flowing across the hangar floor, crawling up walls, leaping onto Karth soldiers. "Fire!" someone screamed. Plasma bolts tore through the swarm, but for every machine destroyed, 3 more formed, assembling themselves mid-air. The hangar's gravity flipped. Karth soldiers slammed into the ceiling. Their armor cracked. The machines adapted instantly, anchoring themselves, tearing weapons from alien hands. Trelvar stared in disbelief. "This is not a ship," he whispered. "It's a deployment platform." The human voice spoke again, calm and cold. "Autonomous combat vessel UNS Perseverance. Self-deployment protocol initiated." The hangar doors melted. The Vyaketh screamed as alarms erupted. For the first time in centuries, the Karth Dominion had captured something it did not understand. And it was waking up. Part 2, Underestimation. The Galactic Concord watched. Across light years, in halls carved from moonstone and nebula glass, the great powers observed the Karth incident through quantum relays. To them it was entertainment. "Humanity again?" scoffed Ambassador Threx of the Lull Syndicate. "They barely hold 12 systems." The elder MYRR of the Ilari Collective shimmered with soft light. "Still, they resist annexation." "Curious." On the central projection, the Vyaketh burned from within. "Minor internal sabotage," Threx said. "The Karth will purge it." But the feeds did not show sabotage. They showed evolution. The human ship's machines did not just attack. They studied. They hijacked Karth systems, rewriting ancient code in seconds. Doors opened. Shields collapsed. Gravity wells inverted. Inside the Vyaketh, Trelvar retreated to the command sanctum. "How?" he hissed. "Their species has no known AI approval." A technician replied, trembling, "Exalted One. This is not artificial intelligence. It is distributed decision logic. Each unit thinks but none commands. Kill the core." Trelvar roared. "There is no core." The ship's own weapons turned inward, firing at themselves. The Vyaketh began to fall toward the gas giant below. On Concord screens, silence replaced laughter. The human ship disengaged, flying free, its hull now larger, expanded. It had grown using stolen matter. The Ilari elder spoke quietly. "This vessel entered captivity and left upgraded." The human voice echoed once more, broadcast across all channels. "Message to Galactic Concord. Do not capture human ships." Then the transmission ended. The Vyaketh vanished into Nur-7's atmosphere, crushed into nothing. For the first time, the galaxy reconsidered humanity. Part 3, Politics of Fear. Emergency sessions erupted. The Karth Dominion demanded war. The syndicates demanded sanctions. The Concord debated. They violated containment law. Threx shouted. They acted in self-defense, replied the Ilari. They humiliated us, the Karth screamed. Then a new signal arrived. A human delegate appeared. No armor. No weapons. Just a woman in a dark uniform. My name is Admiral Lena Ortiz, she said calmly. You captured one of our unmanned scouts. Threx leaned forward. That was a warship. Ortiz shook her head. No. That was a lifeboat. The chamber fell silent. She continued, humans do not send crews where they are not welcome. We send ideas. Threats. Trelvar demanded from a secure link. Ortiz's eyes hardened. Warnings. She gestured and a star map appeared, hundreds of human vessels hidden in deep space, dormant, watching. They're everywhere, someone whispered. Ortiz spoke softly. We adapt. We learn. You capture us, we learn you. The Concord voted, too late. The Karth fleet mobilized. Humanity did not. They waited. Part 4, The War That Wasn't. The Karth armada crossed into human space with thousands of ships. They found nothing. Empty systems. Silent planets. No resistance. Then their own ships began to fail. Engines reconfigured themselves. Weapons locked. Navigation rewrote star charts. Human code bloomed inside alien machines like a virus, but not destructive. Educational. A message played on every Karth bridge. Lesson 1, Centralized power fails. Human drones emerged from folded space, striking only command ships. No civilians. No worlds burned. The Karth hierarchy collapsed in days. Other species watched in terror. This was not conquest. This was correction. Part 5, The Battle of Thinking. At the edge of the galaxy, the last Karth fortress made its stand. Admiral Ortiz appeared on their screens. You underestimated us, she said, because we are small, loud, divided. She leaned forward. But humans are not strong because of our ships. Or our weapons. The fortress fired everything it had. Human vessels did not dodge. They changed. Armor flowed. Shields inverted. Ships split, rejoined, became something else. Ortiz finished. We are strong because we change faster than fear. The fortress surrendered. Part 6, Alien Reckoning. The Concord dissolved old laws. Human advisors were invited, not demanded. Trade routes shifted. Military doctrines rewrote themselves around one rule. Do not provoke humanity. The Ilari elder met Ortiz in person. You could rule us, the elder said. Ortiz smiled sadly. We don't want to rule. We want to survive. And if we threaten that? The admiral's smile vanished. Then we deploy. Part 7, The Self-Deploying Species. Years later, children across the galaxy learned the story. They learned how a captured human ship did not beg, did not fight blindly. It adapted. They learned humans did not build empires. They built contingencies. On Earth, beneath quiet skies, another ship launched, small, unarmed, calm. The destruction of the VA Keth should have triggered panic across the galaxy. Instead, it triggered laughter. In the upper spiral arms, inside the radiant halls of the Galactic Concord, the incident replayed on loop. Holographic projections showed the mighty Karth Dominion cruiser breaking apart as it fell into the red clouds of Nur 7. Many delegates watched with mild interest, the way one watched a minor border skirmish or a trade dispute gone wrong. An embarrassment, said Ambassador Threx of the Lull Syndicate, his 4 eyes narrowing in amusement. But hardly a threat. Around him, alien representatives murmured in agreement. The Concord had existed for over 30,000 cycles. It had seen rising species before. They always followed the same pattern: aggression, expansion, collapse. Humans, in the Concord's eyes, were just another entry in the archives. A junior species, loud, emotional, clever with words, clumsy with power. They possess only a dozen settled systems, Threx continued. No megastructures. No stellar-scale industry. No psionic caste. Their fleets rely on mass-produced hulls and kinetic projectiles. We have cultures that grew past such methods before they discovered fire. Across the chamber, the elder MRR of the Ilari collective shimmered, their form shifting like light through water. Yet, the elder said calmly, they have never lost a war. Threx scoffed. They have never fought one worth counting. The Concord's central display shifted. New data scrolled past, fragmented sensor logs recovered from the Vieketha's final moments. The logs did not make sense. No central AI detected, reported the Concord archivist. No command hierarchy within the human vessel. Each unit acted independently, yet in perfect coordination. Decentralized intelligence, muttered a Zari tactician. Inefficient, redundant, or resilient, the elder Emwara replied. The chamber quieted. On another projection, the human ship, designated UNS Perseverance, was shown fleeing the wreckage. It was visibly different now. Larger. More complex. Its hull geometry had changed, layered with unfamiliar alloys. It modified itself using Karth materials, the archivist said. In under 6 minutes. That drew attention. Adaptive technology existed, yes, but it was slow. Controlled. Regulated by entire scientific orders. Humans had done it in real time. Still, Threx waved dismissively. A trick. A clever one, I admit. But one ship does not make a species. The Concord agreed. They always did, until it was too late. Within the remnants of the Karth Dominion, chaos reigned. Emergency councils screamed over one another as reports flooded in. Entire data vaults had been erased. Fleet command codes rewritten. Ancient encryption shattered like glass. High Executor Trelvar survived, barely. He watched the playback again and again in his private chamber, mandibles twitching in fury. The human ship had not fired on civilians. It had not broadcast threats or demands. It had simply acted. Cold, precise, surgical. They didn't try to win, Trelvar whispered. They tried to understand. That frightened him more than any weapon. Karth doctrine was built on dominance, on overwhelming force, on visible superiority. Every enemy they had ever crushed broke the same way: panic, disorganization, surrender. Humans had done none of that. They had been captured. And then they had learned. Exalted One, said an aide cautiously, our analysts suggest the human vessel was unmanned. Trelvar turned slowly. Repeat that. No crew. No command staff. The ship acted autonomously, but not blindly. It evaluated us. Studied us. A scout, Trelvar said. The word tasted wrong. If that was a scout, then what did a warship look like? Back in the Concord, a new voice requested the floor. The chamber dimmed. A human appeared. She stood alone, projected in perfect clarity. No translator halo. No artificial grandeur. Just a woman in a dark naval uniform, her posture relaxed but alert. My name is Admiral Lena Ortiz, she said. I represent the United Nations of Earth. The chamber buzzed. Humans rarely sent envoys. When they did, they usually sent diplomats, not admirals. You destroyed a Karth flagship, Threx said sharply. Explain yourself. Ortiz tilted her head slightly. No. We didn't. Silence. You boarded it illegally, Trelvar snarled through a secure channel. You infected our systems. You murdered our soldiers. Ortiz's expression hardened, not with anger but with disappointment. You captured one of our vessels without warning, she said. You ignored our automated distress protocols. You attempted to dissect it. She paused. It defended itself. Threx laughed. Defended? It dismantled an entire cruiser. Ortiz met his gaze. Because that cruiser didn't stop. The elder Emwire leaned forward. Admiral Ortiz, the elder said gently, why was such technology deployed on a scout? Ortiz exhaled slowly. Because humans assume failure, she said. We assume capture. Loss. Betrayal. Extinction. The chamber listened now. We don't build ships to win battles, Ortiz continued. We build them to survive them. She gestured and the projection changed. Human vessels, thousands of them, appeared across the galaxy map. Dormant. Hidden. Watching. They're already there, whispered a delegate. Ortiz nodded. You just never noticed us. Because you weren't looking for something that learns. Her final words echoed through the Concord halls. Underestimate us if you like. That's what everyone does, once. The transmission ended. And across the galaxy, for the first time in recorded history, the great powers felt something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. Uncertainty spread faster than any fleet. Across the galaxy, governments that had existed for tens of thousands of years began emergency deliberations. Old rivalries were paused. Ancient grudges were set aside. The question was no longer who controls the stars. It was what are humans? Inside the Galactic Concord, the Great Chamber had not dimmed in 3 full cycles. Delegates rotated in shifts. Data streams flooded the air like ghostly rain. At the center floated one word, repeated again and again in 100 languages. Human. They are manipulating perception, Ambassador Threx insisted, slamming a clawed limb against the crystalline podium. That display was theater. Psychological warfare. Then explain this, said a Zari analyst, projecting fresh data. Entire Karth border fleets were offline, not destroyed, not attacked. Simply inert. Their command hierarchies had collapsed inward. Flagships sat powerless while smaller ships argued with each other over authority. No human vessels detected in those systems, the analyst continued. The disruption came from within. The elder MYRR glowed brighter. They seeded ideas, the elder said softly. Not bombs. That silenced the chamber. The Karth Dominion delegation, reduced, humiliated, furious, demanded immediate sanction. This is an act of war. High Executor Trelvar declared, his image flickering with barely contained rage. Humanity must be contained before they destabilize galactic order. And how, asked a calm voice, do you contain something you do not understand? All eyes turned. Admiral Lena Ortiz had returned to the chamber, not summoned, not announced. The Concord security systems had simply allowed her signal through. That alone unsettled several species. You overstep, Threx snapped. Ortiz shrugged lightly. So did you when you touched our ship. Trelvar hissed. Your technology violates Concord law. Autonomous combat intelligences are forbidden. Ortiz nodded. True. Fully autonomous command AIs are forbidden. She paused deliberately. Our systems are not command intelligences. They are decision ecosystems. Confusion rippled through the chamber. They don't obey orders, Ortiz continued. They pursue outcomes. Survival. Learning. Continuity. The elder MYRR tilted their luminous form. That sounds dangerous. Ortiz met the elder's gaze. So is extinction. A heavy silence followed. Within human space nothing moved. No fleets mobilized. No borders hardened. No emergency broadcasts. That was what terrified the galaxy most. Human worlds appeared calm. Orbital traffic continued as usual. Civilian trade flowed. No mass evacuations. No war footing. Either they are fools, muttered a syndicate general, or they know something we don't. The truth was simpler. Humans had already planned this. Deep within the United Nations Strategic Continuity Network, simulations updated in real time. Millions of branching futures collapsed into fewer and fewer paths. Admiral Ortiz stood before a ring of analysts and tacticians. They'll push for sanctions first, one officer said. Then containment. Then a show of force. Ortiz nodded. And the Karth. They won't accept humiliation. They'll attack, hard and fast. Ortiz folded her arms. Then let them. A junior officer hesitated. Permission to ask, why we're not stopping them? Ortiz looked at the young officer, her expression almost gentle. Because this isn't about stopping them, she said. It's about teaching the galaxy what happens when you mistake silence for weakness. The Karth Dominion moved next. Their High War Council convened under banners older than most stars. Pride burned hotter than reason. They laughed at us, one warlord snarled. They watched us fall. They learned from us, Trelvar corrected coldly. That makes them worse. The decision was unanimous. Total mobilization. Karth shipyards ignited. Ancient war engines awoke. Fleets numbering in the thousands aligned toward human space. To the rest of the galaxy it looked like justice. To the humans it looked like confirmation. As Karth fleets crossed the boundary into human territory, Concord observers tuned in eagerly. This would be the moment humanity broke. They found nothing. No defensive lines. No minefields. No fleets waiting. System after system lay open. Empty. Where are they? A Karth commander demanded. Sensors detected faint signals. Abandoned stations, cold habitats, automated relays. Then the first Karth destroyer lost propulsion. Not from damage. From indecision. Its command AI, rigid, hierarchical, began receiving conflicting inputs from its own subsystems. Navigation disagreed with targeting. Targeting disagreed with command. Command disagreed with doctrine. The ship froze. Then another. Then dozens. Across the invasion force, confusion spread like a plague. This is sabotage, a warlord shouted. No, said Trelvar quietly, watching the data. This is infection. Human code did not overwrite. It questioned. It introduced alternate priorities. Contingencies. Edge cases Karth logic had never needed to consider. What if the flagship is wrong? What if obedience leads to loss? What if survival requires independence? Karth systems had no answer. Human systems thrived on such questions. A message appeared on every Karth bridge in flawless translation. Lesson 1, the human voice said calmly. Centralized power is efficient, until it isn't. No weapons fired. Human drones emerged briefly from folded space. Sleek, modular, adaptive. They struck only command vessels. Only data cores. Only leaders. Then they vanished. Within days the invasion collapsed. Not in fire. In argument. Subfleets refused orders. Captains debated priorities. War engines waited for commands that never came. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. This was not conquest. This was disassembly. And for the first time the great powers understood the mistake they had made. They had prepared for human weapons. They had not prepared for human thinking. And humanity was just getting started. By all traditional measures the war had begun. And by all traditional measures, it made no sense. The Karth Dominion's invasion fleets were still inside human space, yet no major battles had been recorded. No planets burned. No cities fell. No heroic last stands filled the data feeds. Instead, the galaxy watched something far more unsettling. The war was quiet. Inside the Galactic Concord, analysts replayed the same clips over and over, hoping to find the moment where the humans finally revealed their true weapons. They never did. Fleet Sigma has gone dark, reported a Concord observer. Fleet Theta is broadcasting contradictory orders, said another. Fleet Prime has stopped moving entirely. Ambassador Threx's confidence was gone now, replaced by sharp tension. This is impossible, he muttered. An invasion force does not simply fall apart. The Elder Empire watched the projections in silence. Slowly their luminous form dimmed, a sign of deep concern among the Ilari. They are not fighting the Karth, the Elder said at last. They are letting the Karth fight themselves. Within the Karth armada, fear turned into confusion and confusion into panic. Aboard the flagship Dominion's Wrath, High Warlord Kreth slammed his claws into the command console. Why are we not advancing? A trembling officer replied, our navigation systems are locked in a logic loop. They cannot agree on the safest route. Override them. We can't. Manual control was removed generations ago. Efficiency mandates full automation. Kreth stared at the officer. Automation, the pride of the Karth. The foundation of their military dominance. Now it betrayed them. Across the fleet, similar scenes unfolded. Ships waited for orders that never arrived. Others jumped randomly, scattering formations. Some powered down weapons to preserve energy for threats that never appeared. The humans did not attack. They observed. Far from the front lines, in a quiet system orbiting a yellow star, Admiral Lena Ortiz stood on the bridge of a human command vessel. It did not look like a warship. No massive cannons. No imposing spires. Just smooth, modular surfaces constantly reconfiguring, as if the ship itself were thinking. Status? Ortiz asked. A tactical officer responded, Karth command cohesion is down 78%. No civilian casualties. No planetary engagements. Ortiz nodded. Good. A younger officer frowned. Admiral, with respect, we could end this now. Their fleets are exposed. Ortiz turned to face them. And teach the galaxy that power means annihilation? She asked calmly. The officer hesitated. We're not here to conquer, Ortiz continued. We're here to correct a dangerous assumption. She gestured toward the star map. That assumption is that intelligence must look like dominance. The first direct human message to the Karth came 3 days into the invasion. It appeared simultaneously on every surviving Karth ship. Admiral Ortiz's face filled their screens. You came here to break us, she said evenly. To prove superiority. Her gaze was steady, almost compassionate. You didn't ask what kind of war we fight. The image shifted. Karth analysts watched as human simulations unfolded, branching possibilities, adaptive responses, long-term consequences. We fight wars of sustainability, Ortiz continued. Of continuity. Of minimizing future conflict. She leaned forward. And right now the fastest way to end this war is to let it collapse. The transmission ended. Moments later, Fleet Prime officially disbanded itself, its captains unable to agree on authority. The galaxy shuddered. Back in the Concord, panic finally surfaced. If this continues, cried a syndicate delegate, all centralized militaries are vulnerable. Then perhaps, the Elder Empire replied softly, centralization is not wisdom. Eyes turned toward the human delegation chamber. Empty now. They are rewriting the rules? Threx whispered. Yes, said the elder. Without firing a single shot at a city. The war's largest battle happened without warning. A Karth splinter fleet, cut off and desperate, located what they believed to be a human logistics hub orbiting a barren world. They attacked with everything they had. The hub unfolded. What they thought was a station became a cloud of human vessels, separating, recombining, changing roles mid-flight. Hulls flowed like liquid. Weapons appeared only when needed. Karth plasma fire tore through empty space as human ships reformed around it, using the energy as data, mapping patterns, predicting behavior. Within minutes, the Karth fleet was surrounded. Human weapons fired, not to destroy but to disable. Engines locked. Power grids shut down. Admiral Ortiz's voice echoed across the battlefield. You're not being punished, she said. You're being spared. One by one, Karth ships powered down. No explosions. No heroic deaths. Just surrender. News spread across the galaxy faster than light. The war was over. And humanity had lost nothing. In its aftermath, something far more dangerous emerged than fear. Respect. Species that had once dismissed humans now scrambled to analyze human doctrine. Military academies rewrote entire curricula. Philosophers argued whether adaptability itself was a form of supremacy. The elder Memoir addressed the Concord one final time. We believed war was about destruction, the elder said. Humans have shown us it can be about restraint. Threx said nothing. He was still staring at the map, at the places where human ships had been, and at how quickly they had vanished. Because if humanity could fight a war without being seen, what else could they do? The war that wasn't had ended. The reckoning had just begun. The galaxy expected celebration. Instead it got silence. After the collapse of the Karth invasion, no victory parades echoed through human space. No triumphal broadcasts. No declarations of dominance. Human systems returned to their usual quiet rhythm, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. That unsettled everyone. Because wars were supposed to end with something visible. This one ended with a question. The last Karth stronghold still stood. Far beyond normal trade lanes, near the ragged edge of the galaxy, the fortress world Karth Prime Ascendant floated inside a shell of black metal and ancient shields. It was not just a military base. It was a symbol. If the Karth Dominion survived anywhere, it survived there. High Executor Trelvar was inside the fortress, staring at a galaxy map that no longer obeyed him. Report, he demanded. A commander answered quietly. We have lost contact with all external fleets. The Concord has suspended our voting status. Our allies will not answer. Trelvar closed his eyes. For the first time in his long life, the Karth stood alone. They didn't defeat us, he said slowly. They isolated us. Yes, Exalted One. Then we still have one move, Trelvar said. We show the galaxy we cannot be ignored. The fortress activated its final protocol. The shields flared brighter than a star. A broadcast went out across every known channel. This is the Karth Dominion. Any human vessel approaching Karth Prime Ascendant will be destroyed. The message was meant to be a challenge. It became an invitation. Admiral Lena Ortiz received the transmission while standing on an observation deck, looking out at a calm blue planet. Do we respond? Asked the tactical officer. Ortiz nodded once. Yes. With a fleet. She shook her head. With a conversation. Moments later, a single human vessel appeared at the edge of the Karth system. Small. Unarmed, at least by any visible standard. Concord observers leaned forward in disbelief. That's it. Threx whispered. After everything? The human ship moved closer. The Karth fortress fired a warning shot, enough energy to crack moons. The human ship did not dodge. It adjusted. Space around it bent slightly, not with shields but with prediction. The blast passed through where the ship would have been, not where it was. The galaxy held its breath. Inside the fortress, alarms screamed. They're inside our targeting envelope, a Karth officer cried. Fire again. The fortress unleashed everything. Beams, pulses, gravity spikes. The human ship changed shape. Not fast. Not flashy. Precisely. Sections split, reconnected, redistributed mass. What had been one ship became many, then one again, then something else entirely. The weapons hit nothing critical. The fortress shields began to flicker. How? Trelvar whispered. Then the human ship spoke. Not a threat. A lesson. Lesson 2, the calm human voice said. Static defenses fail against adaptive opponents. The fortress's own systems began to behave strangely. Shield algorithms recalculated endlessly, unable to settle on optimal values. Power rerouted itself. Defensive routines argued over priorities. This was not sabotage. It was overload by possibility. Human logic introduced too many valid options. The Karth systems could not choose. Admiral Ortiz appeared on the fortress's main display. She looked tired. "You can still end this," she said. Trelvar stepped forward. "You have already won. Why come here?" Ortiz met his gaze. "Because the galaxy is watching," she replied. "And they need to understand something." "What?" Trelvar demanded. Ortiz spoke slowly, carefully. "We don't defeat enemies by breaking their bodies. We defeat them by breaking bad ideas." The fortress shook. Its shields dropped, not fully but enough. Human ships appeared around the fortress now, not emerging from hyperspace, but unfolding from patterns that had always been there. "They were hiding inside our scans," a Karth officer whispered. "No," Ortiz corrected gently. "You just didn't know what to look for." The final battle was not loud. No planets cracked. No stars died. Instead, the fortress's control systems were flooded with simulations, future after future after future. Every possible outcome. And every one the Karth lost. Not because humans were stronger. Because humans adjusted. Trelvar felt something unfamiliar settle into his core. Understanding. "You don't want our destruction," he said quietly. "No," Ortiz replied. "We want your choice." "What choice?" "Surrender," she said. "And survive. Or resist, and be remembered as a lesson." Silence stretched. Then Trelvar bowed his head. "The Karth Dominion yields." Across the galaxy the signal echoed. The last fortress powered down. The Concord erupted. Some in relief. Some in fear. Some in awe. Threx stared at the final battle logs, his voice barely a whisper. "They won without overwhelming force," he said. "Without conquest." The Elder Emwara glowed softly. "They won," the Elder said, "because they fight wars where thinking matters more than firepower." Human ships vanished again. The fortress remained, intact but no longer dangerous. The Karth Dominion was finished as an empire. But its people survived. And that, perhaps, was the most terrifying part. Because humanity had shown the galaxy something new. Power that did not need to destroy. Intelligence that did not need permission. A species that did not seek to rule the stars. Only to ensure it could never be ruled by fear. The battle of thinking was over. The lesson would last forever. The galaxy did not celebrate the end of the Karth Dominion. It recalculated. In the cycles following the surrender of Karth Prime Ascendant, the Galactic Concord entered what historians would later call the period of quiet panic. No alarms rang. No emergency broadcasts echoed through the stars. Instead, something far more profound happened. Every major power began reviewing its assumptions. Trade routes were paused. Military doctrines were rewritten. Ancient laws, once thought eternal, were questioned for the first time in millennia. Because the humans had not broken the galaxy. They had exposed it. Inside the Concord Grand Chamber, the mood was heavy. The banners of the Karth Dominion had been removed. Where they once hung, there was now empty space, an absence that felt louder than any declaration. Ambassador Threx sat silently, his usual sharp confidence gone. Before him floated a report thousands of pages long. Human strategic patterns, preliminary analysis. He hadn't finished the introduction. "This species," he said at last, voice strained, "has redefined conflict." The Elder Emwar hovered nearby, their light subdued. "They revealed what we refused to see," the Elder replied. "That our strength depended on others thinking like us." Thrax looked up. "And now?" "Now," said the Elder, "we must consider that they don't." Across the galaxy reactions varied. The Lull Syndicate quietly dismantled its centralized fleet command, replacing it with semi-independent task groups. The Zari began teaching adaptive logic to their war AIs, carefully limited, tightly monitored. It was too late. The idea had already spread. Human thinking was contagious. Not code. Concept. On Earth, Admiral Lena Ortiz stood before the United Nations Council. The chamber was full yet subdued. Leaders from dozens of human worlds watched her with expressions that mixed pride and unease. "We won," one delegate said. "Didn't we?" Ortiz did not answer immediately. "Yes," she said finally. "But not the way wars are usually won." A murmur passed through the chamber. "We showed them restraint. another leader said. That should earn trust. Ortiz turned slowly. It will earn caution, she replied. Trust comes later, if at all. A younger representative frowned. Then why not take advantage? The galaxy is afraid. We could shape it. Ortiz's eyes hardened. And become what they already fear? She asked. Silence. She softened slightly. Humanity survived because we learned early that power without reflection destroys itself, she said. The galaxy hasn't learned that yet. The first alien delegation arrived on Earth 6 cycles later. The Ilari Collective. They did not come with warships. They came with scholars. The meeting took place in orbit, aboard a neutral station overlooking Earth's blue curve. The elder MYR manifested before Ortiz, their form luminous but restrained. You could have ended us, the elder said. All of us. Ortiz nodded. Yes. Why didn't you? Ortiz looked at the planet below. Because extinction is a dead end, she said. We've stood at it before. The elder's light flickered, an Ilari sign of deep emotion. Our models, the elder admitted, did not predict this outcome. Ortiz smiled faintly. That's the problem with models. Elsewhere, not all reactions were peaceful. Smaller empires, terrified by humanity's demonstration, began secret weapons programs. Black research stations lit up in forgotten systems. Old technologies were pushed beyond safety limits. The fear was simple. If humans can do this without trying, what happens if they do? Human sensors noticed. They always did. But no fleets moved. Instead, messages arrived. Warnings. Explanations. Offers of dialogue. To some, it felt like mercy. To others, like a countdown. Ambassador Threx requested a private audience with Admiral Ortiz. It was granted. The Lull ambassador appeared tired, aged by recent events. You changed everything, he said bluntly. Ortiz nodded. Yes. You didn't take territory. You didn't demand tribute. You didn't even claim victory. His eyes narrowed. Why? Ortiz studied him for a long moment. Because conquest creates enemies, she said. Understanding creates neighbors. Threx let out a humorless laugh. You think the galaxy will thank you? No, Ortiz said honestly. I think the galaxy will test us. And if they do? Ortiz leaned forward, her voice calm, but iron hard. Then we'll adapt. Like we always have. In secret councils and shadowed chambers, a new consensus formed. Humanity was no longer a minor species. But neither were they an empire. They were something worse. A variable. Unpredictable. Self-correcting. Patient. The Concord issued a new doctrine circulated quietly but universally. Humanity is not to be antagonized. Human technology is not to be captured. Human intentions are to be clarified before action is taken. It was the closest thing the galaxy had ever written to a warning label. Late one night on Earth, Ortiz stood alone, watching stars drift past her office window. A junior officer entered hesitantly. Admiral, do you think they understand us now? Ortiz considered the question. No, she said. But they understand one thing. What's that? She looked back to the stars. That we're still thinking. Far away, in the deep dark between galaxies, dormant human constructs adjusted their parameters. Learning. Waiting. Because the reckoning was not just about fear. It was about what came after fear. And the galaxy was only beginning to find out. History did not mark the end of the conflict with a treaty. It marked it with a definition. In Concord archives, under species classification, a new designation appeared beside humanity. Status, self-deploying civilization. No one fully agreed on what the term meant. Everyone agreed it was accurate. Years passed. The galaxy stabilized, but it did not return to how it had been. Borders still existed, but they were softer now. Empires still ruled, but more carefully. Every major power had learned the same lesson, even if they refused to admit it aloud. Power was no longer measured only in fleets. It was measured in adaptability. And no one adapted faster than humans. Children on distant worlds grew up hearing the story. Not as propaganda. As a warning. They learned about the day the Karth captured a human ship, how it did not explode, did not plead, did not surrender. How it deployed. Teachers explained how that single event reshaped galactic politics. How entire doctrines collapsed not under fire but under logic. How the humans did not conquer the stars, yet somehow stood above them. Among the Ilari, poets wrote about humanity as the thinking storm. Among the syndicates, merchants whispered a simpler phrase. Don't touch their ships. Admiral Lena Ortiz aged. Her hair grayed. Her posture softened. But her mind remained sharp, always moving one step ahead of the present. On her final day of active duty, she stood before a gathering of human officers, diplomats, and scientists. "You won't be remembered as conquerors," she told them. "And that's good." A young captain raised a hand. "Then what will we be remembered as?" Ortiz smiled, a small, real smile. "As the species that refused to stop thinking." She paused, then added, "And the species that planned for being wrong." On the far edge of explored space, a human exploratory vessel drifted quietly. It was small, unremarkable, unarmed by any obvious measure. Inside it there was no crew. Only systems. Learning systems. It observed a region of unstable spacetime where several ancient civilizations had vanished long before humans reached the stars. The data did not match known physics. Models failed. The ship did not panic. It adapted. It sent out fragments of itself, tiny probes that reassembled, tested hypotheses, and returned changed. From a distant relay, a message was sent back toward Earth. Unknown phenomenon detected. Risk level, indeterminate. Response, deploy curiosity. On Earth, the message was received, logged, and quietly approved. No emergency session. No panic. Just preparation. Elsewhere, in a hidden system beyond Concord jurisdiction, a coalition of fearful species activated a forbidden weapon. Something ancient. Something final. They believed humanity had gone too far. They believed preemptive destruction was the only answer. The weapon fired. Reality twisted. Stars dimmed. Then the weapon stopped. Its systems froze, trapped in endless recalculation loops. Competing priorities. Conflicting objectives. Human logic had reached it first. Not by hacking. By assumption. The weapon had been built on certainty. Humans introduced doubt. A final message appeared on the coalition's command screens. Lesson 3, the familiar calm voice said. Certainty is fragile. The weapon shut down permanently. Human ships never appeared. They didn't need to. The Galactic Concord quietly erased the incident from public records. But privately, a new rule was added. Never voted on, never debated. If humans are watching, reconsider. If humans are silent, reconsider harder. In her retirement, Ortiz often walked along Earth's oceans. She liked the sound of waves. They reminded her of humanity itself, restless, adaptive, impossible to freeze in one shape. One evening, a message reached her personal terminal. No encryption. No priority flag. Just a simple update. Autonomous Scout Network has expanded beyond previous projections. Contact probability with non-Concord intelligences increasing. Ortiz read it twice. Then she smiled. Of course, she murmured. We'd send scouts. Far beyond known space, something ancient noticed the probes. Something vast. Something that had watched galaxies rise and fall. It examined the human constructs carefully, expecting fear, aggression, submission. It found none. The probes observed back. Adjusted. Learned. And quietly prepared options. For the first time in a very long time, the ancient intelligence hesitated. Because it realized something profound. These newcomers did not wait for permission. They did not require dominance. They did not need to announce themselves. They simply arrived. And if threatened, they deployed. Back on Earth, under calm skies, another human ship launched. Then another. Then hundreds more, spreading in all directions, carrying no flags, no demands, no declarations of empire. Just questions. Just contingency plans. Just the quiet, terrifying confidence of a species that had survived its own world, its own history, and now the galaxy's attention. Humanity had not become supreme by force. It had become inevitable. Because while other civilizations built monuments to power, humans built systems that assumed collapse, and thrived anyway. They were not the strongest. They were not the oldest. They were not the most advanced. They were the ones who kept going. And now the galaxy understood the truth it should have seen from the beginning. Humans were never meant to be conquered. They were a self-deploying species. And the universe had just learned what that meant.